I am not a product of my circumstances. I am a product of my decisions. Begin with the end in mind. The key is not to prioritize what's on your schedule, but to schedule your priorities. Think win-win. Seek first to understand, then to be understood. Synergy is what happens when 1 + 1 = 10 or 100 or even 1,000. Sharpen the saw. If we want to make significant quantum change, we need to work on our basic paradigms. We can't direct the wind, but we can adjust the sails. Effectiveness is not just doing more work, but doing right work. To change ourselves effectively, we first had to change our perceptions. We are not human beings on a spiritual journey. We are spiritual beings on a human journey. Most people do not listen with the intent to understand. They listen with the intent to reply. It's not what happens to us, but our response to what happens to us that hurts us. Happiness, like unhappiness, is a proactive choice. The way we see the problem is the problem. You have to decide what your highest priorities are and have the courage to say no to other things. When you show deep empathy toward others, their defensive energy goes down and positive energy replaces it. Trust is the glue of life. It's the most essential ingredient in effective communication. It's the foundational principle that holds all relationships. Our behavior is a function of our decisions, not our conditions. We see the world not as it is, but we are, or as we are conditioned to see it. The main thing is to keep the main thing the main thing. Live out of your imagination, not your history. We are the creative force of our life, and through our own decisions rather than our conditions, if we carefully learn to do certain things, we can accomplish those goals. Start with a clear destination in mind. The more we think we know about, the greater is our respect for reality. We judge ourselves by our intentions and others by their behavior. When people talk, listen completely. Most people never listen. We are free to choose our actions, but we are not free to choose the consequences of these actions. The only real threat to your success is the fear of change. Self-growth is tender. It's holy ground. There's no greater investment. Every human has 4 endowments: self-awareness, conscience, independent will, and creative imagination. These give us the ultimate human freedom, the power to choose, to respond, to change. The biggest communication problem is we do not listen to understand. We listen to reply. Life is, by nature, highly interdependent. To try to achieve maximum effectiveness through independence is like trying to play tennis with a golf club. The tool is not suited to the reality. Balance is not something you find, it's something you create. Leadership is communicating to people their worth and potential so clearly that they come to see it in themselves. An empowered organization is one in which individuals have the knowledge, skill, desire, and opportunity to personally succeed in a way that leads to collective organizational success. You can't talk your way out of problems you behave yourself into. To solve major problems, we have to change our mindset. Private victories precede public victories. Don't argue for other people's weaknesses. Don't argue for your own. When you make a mistake, admit it, correct it, and learn from it immediately. Every time you think the problem is out there, that very thought is the problem. Motivation is a fire from within. If someone else tries to light that fire under you, chances are it will burn very briefly. Admission of ignorance is often the first step in our education. Reactive people are driven by feelings, by circumstances, by conditions, by their environment. Proactive people are driven by values, carefully thought about, selected, and internalized values. When one door closes, another opens, but we often look so long and so regretfully upon the closed door that we do not see the one which has opened for us. Effective people are not problem-minded. They're opportunity-minded. We accomplish all that we do through delegation, either to time or to other people. It's not time that's the problem. It's the events, how many we try to cram into time. If we keep doing what we're doing, we're going to keep getting what we're getting. Our ultimate freedom is the right and power to decide how anybody or anything outside ourselves will affect us. Personal leadership is not a singular experience. It is, rather, the ongoing process of keeping your vision and values before you and aligning your life to be congruent with those most important things. You're not the product of your nature. That is your genetic makeup or your nurture, the things that have happened to you. Of course, both nature and nurture have affected and shaped you, but their power is in the past. The more proactive you are, meaning the less you are affected by your past, the more you focus on the can-do portion of your circle of influence, and the more positive energy you radiate, the more your circle of influence will grow. The problems we face fall in one of three areas: direct control, problems involving our own behavior; indirect control, problems involving other people's behavior; or no control, problems we can do nothing about, such as our past or situational realities. To focus on technique is like cramming your way through school. You sometimes get by, perhaps even get good grades, but if you don't pay the price day in and day out, you never achieve true mastery of the subjects you study or develop an educated mind. Until a person can say deeply and honestly, "I am what I am today because of the choices I made yesterday," that person cannot say, "I choose otherwise." Each part of your life, today, can be examined in the context of the whole of what really matters most to you. As you live your values, your sense of identity, integrity, control, and inner directedness will infuse you with both exhilaration and peace. We are responsible for our own effectiveness, for our own happiness, and ultimately, I would say, for most of our circumstances. A personal mission statement is like a personal constitution. It's the basis for making major life-directing decisions. The most effective way I know to begin with the end in mind is to develop a personal mission statement, or philosophy, or creed. There's no better way to inform and expand your mind on a regular basis than to get into the habit of reading good literature. Many activities and attitudes that are important, like building relationships, recognizing new opportunities, and formulating ideas, have no direct or immediate payoff. Interdependence is a higher value than independence. As long as you think the problem is out there, that very thought is the problem. In the final analysis, the only person you can ever really change is yourself. You can't talk your way out of a problem you behaved your way into. When you make a deposit into the emotional bank account, you build up a reserve. Your balance rises. One of the most important ways to manifest integrity is to be loyal to those who are not present. In doing so, we build the trust of those who are present. Satisfying another person's deepest needs and wants is probably the greatest deposit you can make in a relationship's emotional bank account. When trust is high, communication is easy, instant, and effective. You can't be successful with other people if you haven't paid the price of success with yourself. The ability to subordinate an impulse to a value is the essence of a proactive person. There are three constants in life: change, choice, and principles. Our behavior is a function of our decisions, not our conditions. Listening to both sides of a story will convince you that there is more to a story than both sides. Patience is the companion of wisdom. Strength lies in differences, not in similarities. In an interdependent situation, the goose lays golden eggs, and the ability to continue to get golden eggs is a function of the health and welfare of the goose. It's not enough to have values without vision. You want to be good, but you want to be good for something. On the other hand, vision without values can create a Hitler. An empowering mission statement deals with both character and competence. What you want to be and what you want to do in your life. When we listen with the intent to understand others, rather than with the intent to reply, we begin true communication and relationship building. Opportunities to then speak openly and honestly to each other come naturally with that understanding. Our self-image, strongly held, essentially determines what we become. We see the world not as it is, but as we are, or as we are conditioned to see it. We need to have a purpose in life that is larger than our life or our problems. It's sometimes a painful process. It's a change that has to be motivated by a higher purpose, by the willingness to subordinate what you think you want now for what you want later. At some time in your life, you probably had someone believe in you when you didn't believe in yourself. Without a sense of caring, there can be no sense of community. To touch the soul of another human being is to walk on holy ground. People can't live with change if there's not a changeless core inside them. One way to begin to surface your assumptions is to take notice of your emotional responses to situations. The most important ingredient we put into any relationship is not what we say or what we do, but what we are. Effective people stay out of quadrants I, and I, V, and I, because, urgent or not, they aren't important. They also shrink quadrant I down to size by spending more time in quadrant I. The undisciplined are slaves to moods, appetites, and passions. Employers and business leaders need people who can think for themselves, who can take initiative and be the solution to problems. Live out of your imagination, not your history. Every time you think the problem is out there, that very thought is the problem. Dependent people need others to get what they want. Independent people can get what they want through their own efforts. Interdependent people combine their own efforts with the efforts of others to achieve their greatest success. We first make our habits, and then our habits make us. In the last analysis, what we are communicates far more eloquently than anything we say or do.